allowed them to perform under the agreement, requested that they provide a site plan, and we're negotiating other contract arrangements with them. And then in December, once the commission makeup changed, pulled the plug up. That is what gives everybody trouble.
Okay, that's helpful clarification. If I...
Yeah, please.
So yes, the commissioners did have the right to say no, and to terminate the contract, but perhaps not with the timing and not with having essentially given mixed signals. That in some cases they said move forward. Now, was there any move forward that was actually on the building, or was all the move forward related to the pool? It was kind of a separate undertaking. Okay, so that...
Well, the city asked for a site plan so that the building and the construction of the parking lot and public improvements could be started.
And that does not seem like an altogether unreasonable thing to ask for.
No, it isn't. But if you're going to ask for that, and then a month later, a month and a half later, without notice, terminate the contract, that's what gives everybody trouble.
All right, let me ask some other things that relate to that. I think folks who were around at the time that this was all started and who were paying attention to the flavor in the community were very aware that the community was quite divided about whether this was a good way to build a new building at the beach. I think there was a feeling in the community that, hey, we've wanted a new building up there for many years, we haven't found a way to do it. Here's a public-private partnership that the public sector or the private sector puts in some money, the public sector puts in some money, we get a building, they get something, we get something. But the feeling in the community was very mixed about whether this was the right way to go. And I think Greater Bay was very aware of that from the get-go. There was a very strong feeling in the community that one of the things that had to be done to allow this whole project to go as a public-private partnership was you had to change the zoning from a strictly public park type zoning to something that, because that zoning didn't allow that kind of partnership. And there was a very strong feeling in the community that I don't know that we want to do that. This has been a public park for many, many years. And not everybody in the community was on board with the idea that, well, let's do this arrangement and maybe it'll all work out. And I know for a fact that Greater Bay was aware of it because I had a long dinner by chance with Willard. I happened to show up at Pollo Tropical. I didn't know who Peter Willard was from a hole in the wall, but he apparently knew who I was. And we talked. And he clearly had been following the politics in the city for a long time. So I think some of what you've indicated might be perceived as smelling was simply the democratic process in this city being expressed from the ground up, that there were lots of people in the community who didn't think it was a good idea. They in turn supported candidates who campaigned on the platform that they didn't think it was a good idea. And I don't think there's any problem with that, and I don't think that's a hard thing to explain or a particularly smelly thing. That's how democracy works.
Except you had a contract. You had a contract. And you accepted their performance under the contract, irrespective of what the language said. And you demanded other performance of them, irrespective of what the language that allowed you to terminate said. And then, 2 months after their site plan was demanded and provided, albeit
provided
without an application, that the city pulled the plug. And that's the issue. Not that the city, that half the people or 45% of the people or 30% of the people were opposed to the project. That's a normal course of democratic life. 49% of any town are going to be opposed to any kind of project that the other 51% want. That's not it. It's no part of the democratic process to knowingly circulate incorrect information so that you stir up the populace. That occurred. I've got the documentary evidence of that sort of thing occurring. misleading statements by city commissioners or their political allies about what was going to go on that site, that it was going to be a big hotel, or that it was going to be a big shopping center, or that it was not going to be beach center, or that the public was not going to be able to park there using their parking permits that they buy from the city. There were any number of absolutely false statements that were made. And there was no attempt by anybody on that opposing faction to correct that state of affairs. And in fact, I've interviewed any number of people who were involved in the referendum to stop this project, who were signed the referendum, the petitions, after being told these false things. So, yeah, there's a democratic right and there's a democratic way to do things, but it doesn't include making false statements. Or after you've been told for a year that you're going to be sued for millions of dollars, to terminate, if you terminate the contract and then terminate the contract and act like you're surprised that you got sued. I was in that attorney-client session. I told them, if you terminate, you have a chance you're going to get sued. And they terminated